please. And for those of you who are not familiar with EV, just one more, the next slide once again. For those of you who are not familiar with EV, so just a quick background, there's a lot of different databases within EV. You can see those at the bottom of the page, but essentially within Engineering Village, you have apps. You have an abstract indexing tool, and you can get information from journals, conference, proceedings, standards, and much more other content. And you're easily able to filter the results in various ways to analyze the data much more efficiently than you would on other platforms. So with that, I'm going to turn it over now to Caroline. So Caroline, the ball's in your court.
Thanks very much. So I'm going to give a brief overview of Inspec just for those of you who aren't quite so familiar with it. And then we're going to take a look at a bit of research that we've conducted recently, which helped us to understand the kind of top needs of researchers. And then I'm going to hand over to Tim, who's going to go through a little bit more information about Inspec Analytics and how it can address some of those needs. So Tim, if you can take us to the next slide. So if you're not familiar with Inspec, it's a research database from the IET, with the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and it covers global research in the fields of physics, engineering, and computing. We have over 20 million records, and that dates right back from 1969 to the present day. And we cover over 4,000 journals, so it really is a comprehensive database of the world's research in this field. And all of that content is curated and selected by our content team, and that's based on its quality and relevance. So we really do have the best content and the most relevant content within the Inspec database. And all of those items are then classified and indexed by our team of subject matter experts. So that makes it more discoverable for researchers. And Tim will go into some more detail on exactly how that indexing works. But the key thing to take away is that it really is very precise. And that makes it a lot easier for researchers to pinpoint the literature they're looking for, whether that's in a really broad area like physics, or whether it's in something much more specific like type 1 semiconductors. So the kind of people that use Inspec are research universities, government bodies, and corporations' R&D departments worldwide. It's updated weekly to make sure that it has the latest research available to researchers. And it's fully integrated with Engineering Village, so it's one of the databases that you can search through the Engineering Village platform. In 2019, we launched Inspec Analytics, which is a research intelligence tool which really lets people step back and look at the big picture and understand what's happening in research for a particular topic or for a particular organization. So there are about 90% of the Inspec articles from 2013 to date have been added to Inspec Analytics. That's about 5.5 million records. So it really gives people a current picture of the research landscape. Next slide, please, Tim. So just to take a step back, in my role, it's very important to understand the needs and the challenges of researchers and those working in academia. So we recently conducted a survey to understand the research workflow and really get an idea of what kind of activities are part of that research process, and of those, which are the most important to researchers, which are the most challenging, and which are the most time consuming. And you can see here we had over 350 respondents from more than 60 countries, and that was across more than 30 disciplines within engineering, physics, and computing. And you can see here from the breakdown that we had responses from a range of roles, predominantly researchers, but some more senior members of research staff. And we also had a really good spread across levels of experience, all the way from people who don't yet have a PhD right through to those who completed their PhD more than 20 years ago. Next slide, please, Tim. So from our research, from our survey results, we really had 3 key areas of insights, of things that were the most important to researchers, but also in some cases, the most challenging. So under ideation and discovery, researchers said it was really important that they were able to stay up to date with trends in engineering and physics research, and also they wanted to discover new topics related to their field. In publication, it was about identifying relevant journals and conferences where they could publish their work, but actually over a third of respondents said that selecting the right journal was actually one of their top 3 challenges. Similarly, for collaboration, it was very important to researchers that they were able to identify collaborators in specific topics that they could work with. But again, it was a big challenge, and over a third of people said that collaborating with colleagues was one of their top 3 challenges. Thanks, Tim. So today we're going to focus in on 3 top needs for researchers. The first one is discovering new topics related to your field, which over 90% of researchers said was important to them. Staying up to date with the latest global trends in engineering and physics research, which can be really time consuming. And over 30% of researchers said they spent more than 8 hours a week on literature searches. And identifying new areas of research to explore. So I'm going to hand over now to Tim, who can tell you a bit more about Inspec Analytics and how it can help to address some of these top needs.
Thanks, Caroline. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Fantastic, thanks. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into some demonstrations of how we've used Inspec's indexing. So as Caroline mentioned earlier on, we bring in all this content from all these publications. We had about 1 million records a year at the moment. We obviously extract the information that's standard, such as title, abstract, author, affiliation, etc. We also add our subject terms, which are either uncontrolled indexing, just our indexer thinks this particular term will be of interest, this particular phrase or name of an asteroid or something. And also we have a controlled thesaurus, the controlled index, which is 10,000 specific words and phrases, which have been standardized and developed over 50 years, and we add to them every year, obviously. Which makes it easier to discover a set of articles about a particular topic. Even if the article doesn't have a particular word in it, our indexer has a background in engineering or physics and understands what that's about. So they apply the controlled indexing, the controlled terms. I'll go into more detail on that shortly. And also we add our special indexes, which are available to search in Engineering Village. So we add our subject classification codes within physics, electrical engineering, computing, and mechanical production engineering, which you saw a couple of slides back. And that's hierarchical as well. So it goes from a top level, fairly broad physics, all the way down to specific different types of research on exoplanets or semiconductors. We also add treatment codes, so you can see which articles are experimental, which are practical, which are reviews, which are new developments. If there is chemical data in there, obviously it's mostly inorganic chemical data for semiconductors and things like that. We make that searchable too. We extract numeric data, and that's available to search within Engineering Village. It's a very powerful feature to be able to search articles by temperature or mass or galactic distance. And we also add IPC codes as well. And these are searchable within Engineering Village to discover the articles themselves. It helps people who use it do their article literature searches and article discovery much more quickly, and come to firm conclusions with evidence-based decision-making early on. So here's an example article within Engineering Village. So this is an article where what we do is the stuff at the top, the author affiliations, the title, etc. That's the stuff that's generally available on the web. It's powerful, though. It's useful. You can see what University of Cambridge has been doing, what they've been doing together with UCL. What we do is we add multiple subject indexes to each item. So you can see below here, we have multiple control terms. So in some systems, the subject of an article will be derived from which journal it was published in. But we assign multiple subjects, multiple keywords to each article in Inspec. And as well as the control terms there, we also add physics classifications. Now this is somewhat esoteric. It's been around since 1969, but these ones all begin with A. The electrical engineering codes begin with B. The computing and control classifications begin with C. And the mechanical and production engineering codes begin with E. So this one article covers multiple different areas. It covers physics, computing, electrical engineering, and production engineering, mechanical engineering. And what we can do with that is we can see, well, for a particular subject, for example, flames, combustion, and explosions, what other terms are trending alongside that? For a particular type of autonomous vehicle, or a particular type of superconductor or solar panel, what chemical compounds are increasing in use alongside that? Because obviously we're bringing the content in, we're assigning multiple subjects, and then we could just see how they compare with each other. And I'm going to be going through how to do that next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate finding a high-level subject area within the Inspec Analytics, within Engineering Village, that is growing in global output, maybe one that's growing a little bit, but someone may want to be able to focus in on an area that is growing. They want to be able to see globally what's happening around the world, and then they want to take a look within their area more specifically. So you can drill down through this hierarchy to be able to see more specific aspects of research of interest to you. You can take a look at the concept in more detail and see who's publishing on it, which organizations are doing research, which journals, and then we can take a look at sub-trends within that subject that co-occur with that subject. And then we're going to search for the articles in Engineering Village. And also, one of the other things mentioned earlier on in the presentation was about being able to find collaborators. So being able to find a subject area where someone may not have any experience, but they can potentially find colleagues of theirs at their organization who have published on that particular type of research. So we'll show that too. So what I will do is I will jump to Engineering Village. Okay. So here, this is just the landing page of Engineering Village. And you can see which databases have been enabled to my account. And I can go directly into Inspec Analytics through clicking on the central panel here, or I can access it from the menu. So instead of doing a quick or an expert search, instead of searching for keywords or author names or organization names, I can search Inspec Analytics. So I'm going to open that up in here. And what you can see is we've taken the content in the Inspec database, and we've exposed it as different types of entities. So there's almost 30,000 organizations that have published research into the Inspec database. These are large and small universities, these are corporations, these are government bodies, these are all the author affiliations. 30,000 of them. We use Ringo to be able to define who they are. We also have over 3,500 subject classifications, which I'm going to explore in more detail. And we have these 10,000 control terms. So that's things like flames and explosions and fluid dynamics, etc., that I showed in the article earlier on. So what we're going to do is, firstly, we're going to take a look at the subject classifications. So we expose things as lists and as pages. So here, within here, I can see all 3,500 of the subject classifications. If I scroll down the bottom, I can see 3,571, and there's a lot of them. They all have these codes, and they're all linked to the articles. So, for example, there are almost 1.5 million articles in Inspec Analytics on cross-disciplinary physics, which is a fairly high-level area. 992,000 on communications. And if I just sort by name, you can see some of the physics codes to begin with, and they're quite, again, esoteric. I can search through them. I can, for example, find all the codes that are related to radar. We have 8 of our 3,500 classification codes specifically mentioning radar in the name, or I can look for semiconductors. Here we go. And I can see which of these classification codes, how many articles there are about semiconductor detectors, 22,000 about electronic structure of crystalline semiconductor compounds and insulators. Again, some fairly high level classifications and some very, very specific ones. I can also see which of these are growing. So, for example, electric conductivity phenomena has grown since 2013 by over 20%, whereas impurity and defect levels in elemental semiconductors has declined by 57%. So here I could just see globally what's happening in the world in different areas of semiconductor research, physics aspects of it, electrical engineering aspects, etc. Now, what I can also do is if I actually do my search, I can take a look at the high level electrical engineering codes. So these are the ones which begin with B, as I mentioned at that slide earlier on. So the ones which begin with B are electrical and electronic engineering. And here I can see the top level of the hierarchy. So general topics, circuit theory, components, electron devices and materials. You can see, for example, that power systems and applications has grown by 41% globally, whereas magnetic and superconducting materials and devices has declined just a little bit by 2% in that time period. Of course, I can sort by clicking these column headers. I can also see things like there are 16,000 organizations that have published research on instrumental and special applications, whereas only 3,744 have published on magnetic and superconducting materials. And I can see the number of journals and conferences in the Inspec database, which have those particular codes on them. Now, they're quite large numbers here because these are very high level areas, power systems and applications and communications, for example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, for example, if I work within, let's say, optical materials and applications, so it's an area that's declining slightly over time. What I can do is I can go to what we call the concept page. Each of these 3,500 subject areas has a concept page. You can see we've been bringing content in from 2013. We're still ingesting content from 2020. Obviously, what's happened to the last year has slowed the process of ingesting content a little bit, but we continue to receive content from 2020 and we're adding it all the time. So for this particular concept, optical materials and applications, electro-optics and optoelectronics, there are 218,000 articles in Inspec Analytics about that subject and about more specific areas. Because this is an engineering village, I can just click to search for those 218,000 articles. That's a large data set. Probably I don't have time to read all of those abstracts. I can also see for this particular concept and all the articles indexed with this particular subject area, what are the co-occurring terms? So these control terms that appear on these articles, there's 17,000 about laser beams and optoelectronics, 14,000 on nanophotonics, and I can click to see all 7,500 if I want to, and drill into that in more detail. I can also see these articles indexed with this particular subject area. Some of them are physics related, some of them are electrical engineering related. There'll be computing and mechanical engineering related codes in there too. So I can start seeing some trends as regards disciplines. I can see who are the organizations that are publishing articles in this particular area of research. There are 8,000 organizations that have published articles here. I can see which journals and which conferences include articles about this particular subject area. So there's some optics and laser technology has 1,500 articles. IEEE has 1,400 in that particular journal. This is a useful thing. The conferences, sometimes some of our customers want to be able to bone up on a particular subject that's not familiar to them. So they can narrow down and find a very specific area and find which conference stream or which conference series is mentioning this concept a lot, and maybe send some of their postdocs to it. And what I can also do at the bottom is I can see the child codes, the children of this particular subject area. So what I can do is I can click, and I can see for this area, optical materials and applications, I can see 3 specific child areas. So even though at a high level it's declining slightly, it was declining like 0.03% over time, some of the areas within there are actually increasing. So optical materials and devices has actually increased 10% over that time period. And because we have a concept page for each of these 3,500 subject classifications and all of our 10,000 control terms, I can do the same thing and I can drill down within here. I can see the related terms, I can see the journals, the conferences, the organizations, and the more specific areas as well. So this particular area, this particular child code has children of its own because we have a hierarchy 5 levels deep. So here I can see that for specifically for optical materials and devices, it has 13 child areas such as magneto-optical devices, electro-optical devices, integrated optics, and I can see which of these areas are increasing within my subject discipline. And I can sort and I can see, well, which ones are taking a bit of a jump up. And I can see, for example, integrated optics as a subject. Here we go. Integrated optics has increased from, it's doubled on annual output from 2013 to 2019. And again, I may be able to drill down. I think this is as far as it goes in this particular area, actually. Let's see if there are any more specific areas. Nope, that's as specific as it gets. We are now in the concept page for a very specific area, integrated optics. There are 14,762 articles on this particular subject. And if I want to, again, I can just click to show the articles. But what I'm going to do, firstly, is I'm going to take a look and see, well, these are the organizations that are publishing research on this particular topic. University of Ghent in Belgium, Institute of Semiconductors in China, University of California, Santa Barbara has published 266 articles on this particular subject, and Southampton's published 248. I can filter this list by location as well if I want to. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a look at, for this particular classification code, what are the co-occurring terms? So all of these control terms that I mentioned that we also add to the articles, I can see which of these are on there are increasing rapidly. So for example, here we have, let's just mouse over it, optical waveguides. Optical waveguides has gone up from 386 articles back in 2013 on articles about integrated optics. So this is not just articles about optical waveguides, it's articles about both subjects. I can sort again to be able to see what are the top trending subject areas within this particular subject area. So for articles about integrated optics, and I can see there's one here that stands out, quantum computing. It's a niche subject for articles about quantum computing and integrated optics. It's gone up from 5 articles in 2018 to 30 articles in 2019. And what I can do is I can just say, well, this is of interest to me. So let's just find that in the list. Quantum computing, here we go, quantum computing. And I can just click, and this will now do a search on Engineering Village. And I've got 108 articles on optical electronics and quantum computing. And here in Engineering Village, I can see how many journals there are, who are the authors who published the largest number of articles about that particular combination of topics, and who are the organizations worldwide who've published research on that. What I can also do is I can just drill into it in more detail. So this is an article about those two subjects. So there we have quantum computing as one of the control terms we added. It's also about integrated optics. Yes, integrated optics, quantum optics, optical waveguides, and couplers. And what I can do as well, if I want to be able to find potential collaborators, is I can click the link here within the article view, and I'll go into the concept page for that control term. We have a concept page for all the control terms, all the classification codes. And here I can see these are the organizations that have published research on quantum computing globally. And there's MIT, University of Waterloo, Oxford. What I may want to do is I may want to say, well, I'm looking for potential collaborators, for example, within the USA. So I can just do a search for location. And now I'm seeing all the organizations that have published these articles on quantum computing. And if I just click this link at MIT or Caltech or IBM, let's say Caltech, go to the organization page for Caltech, where we can see all of the articles and all the subjects they've published research on. I can see their research on quantum computing. I can see that there are 160 articles from Caltech on quantum computing in the last 8 years. I can see by output they rank 12th in the world. And here I can just click on that number of 162 authors. And here I have a list of potential people to collaborate with who've published research. This person at Caltech has published 13 articles on quantum computing. So I can find people to potentially collaborate with, people to try and reach out to, people to get on my team, or people potentially to try and recruit. Or even to sell to and market my product to. So there's lots of different ways that this data can be used to be able to, let's just go back to the presentation for a second, to be able to monitor global trends within physics, engineering, computing, and mechanical production engineering, to be able to just drill down within this subject hierarchy to be able to find specific subject areas which are growing, which are declining. I can, for each of those things, I can see which journals I may want to publish in. I can find potential collaborators and subject specialists. I can understand key trends, micro trends, 10,000 different control terms and 3,500 different subject areas give me billions of possibilities. And I can understand what is causing the growth in these areas and what are the hot topics that the organizations are doing research on at the moment. And of course, I can find the specific articles and possibly help me define my own personal or my organization's research strategy. So that pretty much summarizes that presentation. Do we have questions or any feedback?
Thank you, Tim. So we're going to launch another poll real quick. So if I could have everybody once again just answer this poll. Let me launch it. Everybody should be seeing that poll. And once again, if you have any questions, please ask them on that question and answer queue that you see at the bottom of the page. And Tim, while we are getting the poll in progress, it seems that we do have a question here. Does Inspec Analytics have an additional cost over and above Inspec? Tim, I think you might be on mute.
How embarrassing. Sorry about that. So the question was, does Inspec Analytics carry an additional cost? No, it doesn't. If you have Inspec on Engineering Village, you'll have Inspec Analytics as part of that. That's
Okay.
just part of the Inspec subscription.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. And then we have another question here. Does this just show article counts? Are there any plans for citations as well?
Yes. So obviously, when you're looking at emerging trends and topics, then newly emerging things won't have had time to gather citations. So just the article count itself is a very useful piece of information. They haven't had time to be cited yet. However, we are currently developing, and in fact, we're beta testing a new module which includes citation counts as well as article counts. So you could see which of those co-occurring concepts alongside quantum computing are being cited the most globally or on average, even for a specific organization. So what's an organization being cited more for within semiconductors or astronomy? So yeah, that's in development at the moment. We're planning on launching that fairly soon.
Well, that would be really beneficial. And we have another question over here. Can you export Inspec Analytics data in formats other than PDF? If not, could you look into it?
At the moment, it's exposed within PDF within Engineering Village. We are actually working on export to Excel. That will be available fairly soon as part of this new module we're developing.
Perfect, thank you. And then just to wrap everything up, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. We're going to be holding this webinar series every other Thursday. So next, we're going to have a webinar about what is a sustainable future and sustainability. If you want more information over today's webinar or any webinars in the future, please reach out to your customer consultant. And if you don't know who that is, feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the screen, w.coto@elsevier.com. With that, thanks everyone once again. I hope everybody's having a great day and continues to have a great week and weekend coming up.
Thank you very much.
And if there's any more questions, we still have about a minute left. All right, well, everyone, thank you once again and hope to see you soon.